I do have I have a list of questions actually, but
Very
today is
good.
Rath Yatra. So yesterday actually I had 3 Rath Yatra programs, morning, noon, and evening. Um, so I might just I might speak briefly, and then maybe address questions. I'll see how it goes. Does that sound good to you, Chinwai Peru?
Yes, very nice.
Okay. All right. And what about in SoCal? Did you have you had a festival there yesterday?
Well, it's today, Rath Yatra.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. It's actually today, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Yesterday I had some joint Gundicha Marjan and Rath Yatra programs. So.
And the meeting went well with Bhakti Lalita?
It was very sweet. It was very nice. Yeah, it
Very
was
good.
nice. It wasn't as we didn't get as many participants. We had about 25 who joined, but I was hoping for more. But it was very sweet. It was very nice. And then in the end, Lalita was inviting devotees to share experiences in Puri and Rathiacha, and it was very nice. We heard some nice stories about Gurudev. The favorite, I'll just share this is my favorite story which I heard from Mahamansha Prabhu, that he one year he came to join Srila Charjamarja's group, but he wasn't planning to go, and he ended up coming kind of last minute through the call of Charjamarja or some of the devotees. So he arrived separately from the main party. And then on the morning he arrived, he was trying to find our Parikshama party. He was trying to find. Wait, I'm getting an echo here. Maybe someone has their speaker. I'm not sure. So the main party, they were already like joining the kirtan procession around Lord Jagannath. And Mahamansha was like coming separately behind them. And you know what kind of crowd there is at Rath Yatra. It's like thousands and thousands, maybe 1 million people or more. And so he was in a little anxiety, like how am I? And there's so many different kirtan groups, and he's like, how am I going to find them? And as he described, he is quite tall, so he had a little bit of an advantage. He could like Chinmoy, so he could see above the crowd. But he was listening to all the different kirtans, and he's a mridanga player, right? So he was listening to all the different styles of kirtan and the mridanga beats. And then he said, like, through that method, within 5 or 10 minutes, very quickly, he was able to identify our kirtan group. So that was something that inspired me so deeply, amongst thousands of people, he's able to identify like the particular tune of our devotees. There's a particular beat, style, tune coming from Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Mat, and he was able to identify that among so many different kirtan groups. And I just find that to be so incredibly profound, and I was connecting that with our Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj. He would speak about the importance of chastity to our Guru, and being able to identify the mood of our Guru, the will of our Guru, the order of our Guru. And he liked one example that's given by this HMV record company that back in the old days they had one. Maybe you don't have it in America. Maybe not. Maybe it's an English thing. They're still running today. They sell music records. So they've been running many years, and there's this old advertisement which depicts a gramophone, an old style gramophone, and a dog like at the foot of that gramophone. And so the HMV, I suppose it stands for his master's voice. Like that was the phrase that Gurudev liked, his master's voice. Because that dog, he's so tuned in to the voice of his master that even if he doesn't see his master, he just hears his voice, he goes running to that place, he can recognize it. So in the same way, Gurudev's saying like we should be able to identify, develop that kind of sensitivity, to detect the mood, the heart, the will of our guru, and to identify that even if there are, there's a cacophony of different voices that we're hearing from. And then this morning, I was also reminded of one beautiful comment Gurudev made when he was in Sokel, actually. How he was saying how he always tried to tune in to the beats, like he was saying, I have to find it's in an article of Devi that he wrote when he visited Sokel. It's published on the old Sokel website, and Gurudev said something like how like there's a particular tune that's coming from Guru Maharaj, from Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur, and also from Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, and how I'm always checking myself, like am I in tune with them, am I like syncing with syncing, SYN, that, not SIN, am I in sync, with their tune, with their beat, so I just found that incredibly profound, and gave a lot of that experience of Mahamantra, gave a lot of opportunity for reflection, and also another example which came to mind was of Mahaprabhu meeting with the Sanadian Brahmin when he's in Mathura, and this Sanadian Brahmin, we don't hear his name, he's just referred to as the Sanadian Brahmin. He comes across Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu's in Mathura, and Mahaprabhu is chanting and dancing in this mood of ecstatic love, and this Brahmin observes him. He observes this particular mood in him, and he approaches Mahaprabhu, and he says, I know Madhavendra Purida Sambandha Darajani. I know you must have a relationship with Madhavendra Puri. Because Mahaprabhu, he's a grand disciple of Madhavendra Puri, and this Brahmin, he was a direct disciple of Madhavendra Puri. So in that same line, so he could recognize, the particular mood of divine love that Madhavendra Puri brought into this world. He's seen that in Mahaprabhu. And so he said, I know you have a connection here, like it's unmistakable, this particular mood of heart. And then they embraced each other in ecstasy, and dancing together. So we were discussing this last night as well. Ultimately Krishna consciousness, it goes beyond, like there's a particular point when it's not about, like at a lower level, we need to be more careful with analyzing and discriminating carefully, and all of, and Gurudev said this and Guru Maharaj said that, and Prabhu, we have to very carefully consider all of these things, like what's right, what's wrong, what's in line, what's not in line. But at a particular point, there's a degree of sensitivity that will develop within us that we don't need to check in with all of these things, but it'll become something automatic. It'll become something, a spontaneous pull of the heart, and that's ultimately what we're striving for. It's not that our gurus, they want us to be these, mechanical robots, or they want to have minions who are working under them, It's not like that at all. They want, there's this wonderful quote of Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, where he's saying, no doubt many of you are familiar with it, where he says, Krishna consciousness is for, what is the exact, some of you might know it, better by heart. Krishna consciousness is for encouraging independent minded devotees, something like that, along those lines. He says it in a much nicer way. I have to find it, but like it was some expression about like how bureaucracy and management within spiritual missions, they can ruin the spirit of devotion. But what we want is space for devotees to develop their own feeling and their own mood, and have freedom of expression in Krishna consciousness. And I feel this also shows how refined Krishna consciousness is. That like this is a point that is actually addressed in the scriptures. That there's room for our own feeling, our own heart in Krishna consciousness. Like there's a point where there is no right or wrong. Of course that's at a particular level of qualification. But once you reach a particular standard, then there is no right, there is no wrong. It's all about how is Krishna revealing himself to you? Or what is the divine reality that's being transmitted to you? And very unfortunate persons, they sometimes compare, like, oh, this acharya says this and this acharya says that. Like there are contradictions. This is very unfortunate. Persons go down that line. They're not contradictions. We are approaching a variegated divine variegated reality where there's room for multiple angles of vision, multiple revelations. Krishna is the Srila Sridhar Maharaj calls him the mystic hypnotist. He can reveal himself in different ways to different persons. Some persons say Mahaprabhu, when he left the world, he entered into the ocean. Others say he merged into the Gopinath Diti. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj says all of these things are possible. All of these are all possible. So we have to have room. And even if we are set, like we don't want to consider ourselves to be in that category. That can be dangerous. But we want to appreciate, like, this is the direction we're going in, and be able to appreciate in the different expressions of our gurus, the acharyas, that there's room for difference. There's room for so-called contradiction. We welcome that. Baladevi Vijayabhushan has this beautiful expression, Govindabidam. What is it? Govindabidam. It's saying how Krishna Govinda, he's like a jewel. He's like a jewel in the palm of Rup and Sanatan. And like a diamond, a diamond has all these facets that are shining, as it's hitting the light in different places, it's shining in different ways. And so Baladevi Vijayabhushan, he gives this analogy, how Krishna, he's like this wonderful jewel in the hands of Rupa and Sanatan, and through them is being revealed in different ways. Rupa is revealing him in one way, Sanatan in another way, and there's room for all of these different oh, thank you, Govindanandini. Govindabidam Indira Shritabram Hastasva Ratnadiva. Yes, thank you so much. I'm so lucky I have good friends like this. Govindanandini and Chinmoy, they're always very quick to find the shlokas. So today is Rath Yatra. Let's say something. As I said yesterday, I participated in 3 programs for Rath Yatra, and I also feel like there are some very high topics associated with this festival. And yesterday I was really feeling like knocking myself on the head a little, like don't go too high, like have to be a little careful. And actually I was reflecting how Gurudev, like Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he tended to be more free. in sharing his his inner revelation, in expressing the Siddhanta. Srila Sridhar Maharaj tended to be more free about that, like even my mother, when my mother was receiving initiation from Srila Sridhar Maharaj, this is 1981, he gave her the name Divya Shari, which is very unusual. I think I only know of one Divya Shari, and it means divine parrot. and it refers to, it's a very charming, has a very charming background, because Radha and Krishna, there are these two parrots, a couple, male and female, who and the male parrot is on the side of Krishna, and the female parrot is on the side of Radharani. And sometimes they have these, like, they banter back, and like they have like light quarrels with one another, like trying to establish this superiority of their master. So like Shuk, the male parrot, Shuk, he'll say, like, Amar Krishna Giridhari Chilo, my Krishna, he held up the Govardhan hill, he's so strong. And then Shari Bole, Amar Radha Shakti Sancharilo, like that's only because my Radha gave him the power to do that, So they'll have these kind of like back and forth with each other. And so Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he was inspired to give that name, Divya Shari, referring to this female parrot. And then he started speaking like all this Leela, about, he had this inspiration, like describing some many details about the Leelas that would go on between like these parrots and Radha and Krishna. And he mentioned how sometimes the parrots, they would play tricks on devotees, like they'll imitate different voices and cause some chaos in that way. And then Srila Sridhar Maharaj, it was like he forgot his surroundings, and he just kept talking and talking, and he started approaching some high topics. And then my mother said that Srila Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj was there, and he like had to like stop Srila Sridhar Maharaj, like she's very new, like it's better if you stop, like don't say anymore, you said enough, So, and then like you hear on many of the tapes, devotees are asking, many times you hear devotees asking questions that are way beyond their adhikar. By adhikar, I mean qualification. Like we're like at a level where we're still figuring out how to tie our shoelaces, And then we like to ask all these questions like, what about this and this between the queens of Dwarka, and all like these fine points about relationships between Krishna and his girlfriends and the queens, and it's like how does that square up with where we are right now? But anyhow, sometimes we need to hear these things to support our own faith. That was how Srila Sridhar Maharaj would see it. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj, you hear him like how patiently he's going into all these things. And so many extraordinary things. Yes, last night we had a meeting with Jayadev and Chintamani, and we were remembering there's this wonderful article. I think the audio might be lost. I've never come across the audio, maybe someone else has, but there's an article that Devashish Prabhu preserved. He published it in Counterpoint. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj is going into he gives this extraordinary explanation about Jagannath, like why Jagannath is as he is. And so I was telling that last night, and then I'm thinking to myself, like, this is so high, this is like, I've never heard Gurudev talk about this. And I've never even heard Srila Sridhar, like just in one, like on one occasion, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, you know, he was inspired to tell something. And I'm thinking like, you know, I don't want to, I don't feel like I can actually go in, like according to my level of qualification, like me telling all this is like telling the story, you know? So anyway, I was reflecting on how Gurudev, he was very restrained actually. You know, Gurudev didn't, you know, Gurudev would often keep his talks very simple, you know, like it's not like Gurudev didn't have the qualification, you know, and sometimes Gurudev could astonish us with you know, what kind of nectar would come from him. But it wasn't always like that, you know. For the most part, I feel like Gurudev was keeping things at a level that was actually where we needed to, like what was actually relevant for us at our stage, you know. And you know, for that reason, particularly emphasizing these principles of humility, tolerance, and respect, you know, because Gurudev was like looking at us and seeing what's actually appropriate for us. And also I feel that Gurudev, because this is very much the mood of the Vaishnava, the true Vaishnavas, they don't like to cross over the honor of other Vaishnavas. So this is like my own thinking, you know, that Gurudev was a little tricky, and that he made our mission about Srila Sridhar Maharaj. Like that was how Gurudev formed the mission. Like this is Guru Maharaj's mission. The emphasis is on Guru Maharaj's teachings, Guru Maharaj's unique revelations, conception, Guru Maharaj's glories. Like Gurudev put that so much in the center of our mission. You know? And he hid himself in that sense. So I also feel like that was part of Gurudev's approach, you know, like so many things like he could have said and he didn't, you know. And also like I saw and I've heard of some different occasions where devotees would ask Gurudev something, and if he didn't think, of course Gurudev had that side of being extremely patient and etc., but he also had this side where, like, if you were approaching him in a mood that wasn't fully authentic, then he wouldn't necessarily entertain you. He wouldn't necessarily give his time to you, you know. Like there was one time, one lady asked him about, can you tell us something about Radharani? And he gave some very funny response. Like one funny thing Gurudev would do sometimes is he would pretend like he couldn't hear you. I don't know, maybe Chinmoy observed that too. Like what I'm thinking of now is it was something like someone asked him, can you tell us something about Radharani? And he was like what, macaroni? Like he would do these very, very funny things, you know. Or like another thing he would do sometimes is if someone asked him something, he would just like give them this blank look, and then he'd turn to somebody else and like look at them like what do you think, or what did they just say, like did you get any of that? He did that to me once. Or like I've heard from other devotees too, experiences they had, like once somebody asked Gurudev a question and they told, it was a sannyasi actually, and they told me Gurudev just looked at him, then he lifted up his newspaper. Like or another one I heard is he turned up the volume on the television, you know. Like it was like Gurudev was so not about like making a show, like not at all, you know. There was one time, yes, Prabhu.
There's just one very amusing story of some person in SoCal. He asked Gurudev about the lizard people, you know, that conspiracy that there's lizard people living among us and stuff like that. And then Gurudev just pretended to fall asleep until that person went away, and then he, one eye open, looked to see if he was gone, and then woke up again.
Oh God. That is so classic. I haven't heard that. That is so classic Gurudev. He could be so playful. He could be so playful like that. Oh, that's wonderful. So yeah, like Gurudev was like that, you know, like he didn't, he actually said that once, you know, somebody asked him something very silly, like, oh Gurudev, why don't we ever see you chanting your japa? And Gurudev responded, do you want me to put on a show? Like, do you want me to like make some, like fill your little limited idea of what an acharya should look like and behave like? Like, is that what you want me to do? Like, so Gurudev, like he really was not, you know, he didn't care about that. You know, it's like he was just so real in his dealings with us. That was the main thing. So yeah, it's just something I was reflecting on, like how, like especially for someone like in the role of a preacher, it's like sometimes you think in terms of like, oh, what content should I tell, you know, or like what's something different, you know, that's everyone's going to be interested in or excited about or impressed by, you know, like you're thinking in terms of like contents. But with Gurudev, it wasn't about that, not at all. It was very different. You know, he was connecting with like what's actually needed here, what's actually suitable for these persons, you know. Not that I want to tell a nice story or impress them or etc. Put on a show, good show for them, or even satisfy their curiosity also. So anyway, it's something to think about, you know, in you know, on the subject of being authentic in Krishna consciousness, like, you know, within our own practice and in our representation of Krishna consciousness to others, you know. Yeah, you know, like Gurudev could say nothing, or he could say very little, or he could blow your mind with something totally extraordinary, you know, like according to what his inspiration, his mood was, and what he felt the necessity was, you know. No, like also one thing I noticed was like, because I was working on, and theoretically I'm still working on hopefully still a biography of Gurudev, and so as a part of that, I went through a lot of audio archives, like from the 80s through the 90s in particular, like audio recordings. And one thing that struck me about Gurudev is like generally he wouldn't repeat the same thing, you know, like I remember hearing some pretty astonishing things from him, like from some early recordings in the 90s. And I was like, wow, like I never heard this from Gurudev ever, you know, and I never heard them in any, like when I was with him, and I didn't hear them from other devotees, and I didn't hear them in later recordings. Like I'm only hearing this in this particular recording from 1991 or 1989 or whatever, you know. It's like he would say it and that would be it, you know. Whereas like I was thinking with myself, like you know, today is the appearance day of Bhakti Thakur, and I have a list of things that I'm going to talk about, you know. And every year I'm probably saying more or less the same thing. But with Guru, like there's this like on one level there's this transmission of like information, you know. But with Gurudev it wasn't like that at all, you know. Like he would tell something special. I like stories also, like about like stories I heard him tell about Saraswati Thakur. Never ever heard him tell them again, you know. Like some extraordinary things, you know, for like his personal reflections. It's like, whoa, what is this? And never hear it again, you know. So Yeah, just, really, really gives a lot for us to think about. Anyway, we're just trying our best, as Gurudev. One thing Gurudev did say, there were some things Gurudev said many times. And one of those things I heard him say many times was, especially in his early tours, I think, that he would say, if we have $5, we'll make our business with $5. Like, with whatever we have, we'll do our business with that. And if the Lord, we start off with a little capital, and if we handle it, if we invest it properly, then it can expand. So with whatever little we have, we are investing that with all sincerity. And if the Lord wills, if Guru wills, then they can extend some more capital to us. It all depends on them. So anyhow, we'll say a little bit about Rath Yatra. Let's see who else is here. I saw Varun joined us, and also Suyash Prabhu is also here, and also Brajapala, and Suvasini, and I see, Lakshmi's here, and I'm seeing another Vishakha, Ananga Krishna Prabhu from Tijuana is here too. And this Vishakha, I think you joined us the other day in the meeting, but you left before we could talk to you. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hare Krishna, Didi. So I'm Vishakha from Mauritius. So it was Suyash who gave me the link to join you.
Who gave you the link?
Suyash Krishna.
Okay, very nice. Wonderful. Yeah. So I had promised Lakshmi and Suyash that I would, maybe I will just go to their questions, because I don't want to make them wait another day. And as I said, I did talk a lot about Rath Yatra yesterday, and there's no doubt lots of recordings on the web, by other speakers too, for anyone who wants to hear. Emil, are you familiar with Rath Yatra?
Only on a very basic level. I know what it is.
Okay. Well, I'll just give like a 2-minute explanation, maybe. So as you know, it's this Grand Chariot Festival. Very special time, because normally we can't all see this Jagannath deity, because the priests of the temple, they're very strict and conservative, and they don't allow Westerners and also lower caste persons to enter the temple. So this is a very special time when Jagannath comes out and we can all see him. I was watching earlier, it was very exciting watching some of you maybe also saw that, because they were streaming live on YouTube. It was going very, very slow, I think because they're not allowing many people to join. So they're very heavy carts, and it's all like pulled by person. So I think that's why it was going very slow. But anyway, it was very exciting to watch. This festival, it represents, I mean, no doubt there were different interpretations by different persons as to the significance of this festival, but for us, it is representing Krishna being brought back to Vrindavan. Because Krishna's pastimes, his Leela, it is actually eternal. Krishna, as in, I think it's in one of our Mat's legal documents, I remember seeing where Krishna, because in our temple, the way Srila Sridhar set it up, the temple is owned by the deities. It's not owned by any person. It's owned by the deities. That was the way Srila Sridhar set it up legally. And so I remember one time coming across this one phrase in a legal document describing, so Krishna is a minor. And a minor, right? Like there are others who will care for his property on his behalf, right? So I remember coming across this one wonderful phrase describing Krishna, describing the proprietor of the mott as a perpetual minor. He's a perpetual minor because he's always 15 years old. He doesn't go past 15 years old. No. I was like, wow, this is one. They're including this in a legal document. I love it. So Krishna, so this in this eternal cycle going on in Vrindavan, Krishna he appears as a baby in Vrindavan, and then he has his his childhood pastimes, and he has his youth pastimes, and then around the age of 15, he actually is born into a royal family, but due to different circumstances you're probably familiar with already, he comes to stay in this village of Vrindavan for his protection. But then when he's a teenager, he's got to go and take care of business, right? And so he leaves Vrindavan and he goes to the city of Mathura and ultimately Dwarka, another city. And there and he when he leaves Vrindavan, he tells everyone, "I'll be back soon. I just got to take care of a few things, and I'll be back very soon." And he never does, actually, on one level. So there's this huge period of separation of over 100 years where the residents of Vrindavan, they're waiting for Krishna. They're waiting for Krishna to return. And meanwhile, Krishna's living like this royal, like grand, like in stark contrast to the simplicity of Vrindavan. He's living a life of a royal in this grand city. So this festival of Rath Yatra is representative of bringing Krishna back to Vrindavan. The main temple that Jagannath is non-different from Krishna. Jagannath is Krishna in a particular mood. So the main temple where Jagannath stays, it represents Dwarka, where Krishna lives as this royal prince. And then they bring him from that temple to another temple, Gundicha, which is, I don't know if anyone here can say, it's like a few miles down the road, maybe 5 or 10 miles, something like that. I don't know if anyone here can say the exact amount, but something like that. And so this temple is called Gundicha, and that represents Vrindavan. So this is the significance. And then Mahaprabhu, because who is Mahaprabhu? He is the combined form of Shri Radha Krishna. And so in the mood of Radharani, Mahaprabhu is bringing Krishna back to Vrindavan. So there's a profound significance here. And another interesting point is that our grandfather guru, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he actually chose this day to officially launch his temple, to officially announce his temple, this mission, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math. It's interesting because he had this very tiny huts that he was living in. He had one of his godbrothers gave money for a small piece of land, and he built this very simple small hut where he was living. And then he purchased this very expensive long bamboo pole, and he hoisted this flag on this pole, hoisted it above the hut, and then declared his mission on this particular day. So it's very significant. Like, he chose this day. I mean, if you think about what the significance of living in separation from Krishna, and then the joy of being united with Krishna, Krishna coming back to give relief to the residents of Vrindavan. Like, what is more happy? What more is more happy than that? What better day of beginning something than that? You know? So it's very interesting that Srila Sridhar Maharaj chose this day for that. So that's like, you know, there are many other points in connection with this Leela, but this is like in a gist, you know, and I think really it's more than enough for us actually. So okay, so I had some really interesting questions. I was really excited about these questions, and I think the first one is from Braja Bala. Braja Bala, do you want to share your question for everyone? Are you there, Braja Bala?
Yes, Dandavats, Vishakha, Devi, Dasi, Dandavats, all the devotees. I actually don't remember exact wording I have used on Thursday when I asked the question, but in gist, well, it's about our Dharma on the absolute and personal level. How should we approach this decision when we have to choose, for example, when we are at some crossroads in life and we have several options, and of course on the absolute level we want to do something that would be pleasing to Krishna, but when it comes down to practical terms, it's kind of confusing to know if what we are doing every day, every month, every year, if that is our like true personal dharma, if it corresponds like in a proper way to the absolute dharma, and how to harmonize the situation so that our like everyday action and actions, our like actions during the year, during the months, so that it would be something that would be bringing us closer to our like to our absolute dharma, and that our actions would be pleasant to Krishna. How to approach this choice in life, or how to like, because sometimes it's confusing.
Okay, and am I right in saying that? Because before I felt more clear on what you're asking, but now I feel like you've introduced some more nuances here. But would you say like in generally you're asking like how to understand what our dharma is? Is that's what I understood before, but maybe you're asking something deeper than that actually.
Well, if like on the absolute level, if we try to like summarize, well, from my point of view, maybe I'm mistaken, so please correct me if I'm wrong. So if we like try to put it in a simple terms, we try to, whatever we are doing, we should be trying to do something which would be ultimately pleasing to Sri Krishna, right?
Of
like
course,
in the absolute terms. But when it comes down to our practical life, it's sometimes it's not clear like if what we choose to do, if it comes from our own mind, from like our own samskaras, from like former life, or from our samskaras in this life, or like how do we know that the choice we are making, that this is what Krishna wants us to do in this life? Because, for example, if we take like key decision that every person should take in life, for example, when we are choosing our profession, or when we are choosing like the degree we want to take in the university, like if we should be a mathematician or an artist or a musician, like in school, we always have to make this choice, like what we are going to be doing, like next 5 years, this year, this month, tomorrow, today, like we are making this big and small choices every day. And sometimes like we feel like we are making the right choice, but then after 3 months, we're like starting to have doubts. Maybe I should have been doing something else or something different. So how to like, what is the proper way to approach this these choices, so that they would be with every step, so that they would be bringing us closer to what Krishna wants us to do. I'm not sure if I'm expressing it in
Okay, I think I understand better what you're saying now. This is a little different from what I initially thought. Okay, I will answer. I will say something, and you just tell me if what I said is what is helpful or not. Okay, well, first of all, let me go back to what the initial discussion was. This is a meeting we had last Thursday. We somehow got into a discussion about these two dharmas that we all have. You know, dharma in the sense of duty. You know, we all have. This is something discussed very nicely and clearly in a purport of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's, to a verse in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. I don't remember the exact verse number, somewhere in the middle of the middle towards the end of the chapter. And so this this point is made. It's included, it's Bhaktivinoda Thakur's purport, but it's included in our, Srila Sridhar Maharaj included it. I think Srila Sridhar Maharaj, maybe someone else, and maybe it's only in our English, I'm not sure. But anyway, it's a very nice comment of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, where he's explaining how every soul has two dharmas. Their absolute dharma means their eternal spiritual dharma as a servant of Krishna. And then we have on the relative side, you know, within the relativity of this world as conditioned souls, you know, with material bodies, with material needs, with material desires, material complications and circumstances, et cetera, we have a whole set of duties that is tied up with that identity also. And we, we're in a mixed state. And so we're not able to make a 100% jump, you know, into the absolute where we are now, just as I was mentioning on Thursday, on a very basic level, we have these human bodies and we have to deal with, we can't pretend we don't have them, and we can't pretend that we don't identify with them. You know, even on, like, if we go to a really basic level, we have to wear clothes because we identify with our bodies, you know. Whereas Shukadev Goswami, he didn't need to wear clothes because he was so beyond body consciousness. So anyway, you know, we all have these different sets of duties on the absolute side, the purely spiritual side, and on the relative side, the our material necessities. So to answer your question, Rajubala, I feel like one thing, and I mean, no doubt I went through this as well. You know, one thing we go through sometimes is we mix things up in a way that's not necessary and is confusing, you know. What I mean to say is like, you know, like the set of duties that we have in connection with our material existence, we don't need to make much of them, you know, like it's something, you know, like the analogy I gave on Thursday was of a crying baby, you know, like you got to feed the crying baby, you know. So like those pressing necessities that we have, and that may be in the form of like real bodily necessities, or they may be tied up with our material desires that we can't become free from at present, you know. You know, at a very base level, you know, the need for men and women to have relationships with each other, like that's not something that we're encouraged to artificially deny. If we have that need, that urge, desire within us, then we're not encouraged to artificially repress that, you know. So it's like we need to harmonize with these desires, but we also don't want to make too much of them. We don't want to blow them up too much. It's kind of, it's like feeding the crying baby so you can do something else, you know? So to try and be more clear about what I'm saying, so like, for example, like working out what your career path is going to be. It doesn't have to be like this mystical divine experience. Like, oh, should I study biology or should I study chemistry, or should I become a doctor, or should I become a whatever, an engineer? Like, it doesn't. We shouldn't see it as like divine revelation. Like that's mixing things up. We can become a little confused like that, because like we are doing that because that's our own desire, basically. That's not directly in Krishna's interest. So why should we involve, and why should we expect Krishna to be directly involved with that? So it's not, it's not like this crucial life changing, in like, in the sense, in relation to our spiritual life. We shouldn't see it as like this crucial life changing decision, whether I'm going to go this way or that way. Like, just do something, just do something to be able to maintain yourself, to put food on the table, a roof over your head, and take care of your family. And give, like, don't pretend. What I mean is, like, don't pretend it's something more than what it is. Like, that's something, and I'm not saying that in any bad intention. That's a feeling that we have with all good intention, right? Like we saw with Gurudev, sometimes persons would unnecessarily involve him with these kinds of things. Like they want Gurudev's blessing to marry somebody, and Gurudev didn't really appreciate that, actually. Like sometimes he would go along with it, but then later he'd make some private comments. Like he's an acharya. He's here to give spiritual advice for your eternal welfare. Like, why are you involving him with your, like, who your partners, who your husband or wife is going to be, or what, or what career path you're going to take? Like, let's use his, like all the wealth that, like, let's really appreciate who he is and what he can give us, and really ask him the real questions. So like I feel there's this confusion, like where we can mix these two things up. Like, let's get some clarity. Like me getting married, me getting a job, this isn't something to go on like the front page of the next edition of Gaudiya Darshan. Like, this is my own issue. Like, let me just take care of it over here quietly, and let all the focus be on what we're doing in the interest of Guru and Gauranga and our real inner spiritual need. So yeah, it's like in terms of these things, like in terms of our eternal interest, like, just pick anything, what your career is going to be. Like, I'm just using that as an example. I'm not saying like that's what you're talking about. I'm just using it as an example. Like just choose something and get on with it. Like we're not looking for something that's going to be very stimulating and engaging in this world. Like, we just need to, I'm not saying do something boring, but I'm just saying like we are trying to give all our interest and focus to Krishna consciousness. We're not trying to find something in this world that's going to really excite us. We already know there's nothing in this world that is really real food for our soul. So it's like, do something that can support you and is reasonably engaging, so you don't die of boredom, and doesn't take all your time also. That's another consideration. Like you may have an opportunity to do something incredibly interesting, but it would involve like you giving 24/7. Like, some jobs are like that. They're very interesting, there's very high expectation involved, or like you've got to be on call all the time. You don't get any free time. You got to be ready to work, you know, however many hours a day, and maybe it pays really well and you meet really cool, interesting people, and you get to go to amazing places, and the work's really interesting and engaging. But then it's involving you, engaging you so much, you get totally distracted from your spiritual priorities. So like just choose something like, you know, reasonably engaging and reasonably you know, lucrative financially speaking, and give the rest of your energy to your spiritual life. Is that addressing your question, Prajwala, what I said?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so like these questions, we want to direct them more in terms of our spiritual practice. Like where should I go in terms of my spiritual development, my duty there? That's more where we want to apply this level of discrimination. Like what type of Vaishnava association am I keeping? What type of service activities am I engaging in? You know, how am I you know, practicing my life day by day? You know, these kinds of this is where we want to really, you know, give that level of discrimination. And the other stuff is something in the background that is just supposed to be a support for our spiritual practice. So, yeah. Okay, does anyone else want to share any reflections on this subject matter?
Didi, I just listened to Gurudev talk about that shloka, Yat Karoshi Yadanashi, and he explained it that is like a beginning stage. Like Krishna is saying, offer everything to me. And then eventually all these other material things, your material desires, they are going to go away. Just by the offering of whatever you're doing, you know, whatever desires you have, material desires you have, even if you're offering those, eventually, you know, you're going to get to the platform of Sarva, Dharma, Parigatya.
Right. Yes, well, that's a very nice point too, you know. Probably my answer was too hard.
Your answer is great, Didi. It's wonderful.
I'm glad you brought that up. You know, that's also true, you know, that in a general sense, as we're advised in Bhagavad Gita, you know, whatever we're doing, offer it to Krishna, connect it to Krishna. You know, that is in a broad sense, that is what the practice of devotion is about. You know, whatever you like to do, whatever you want to do, you know, you like to make music for Krishna. You know, you like to make rock and roll music, make rock and roll music for Krishna. You like pizza, make pizza for Krishna. You know, etc. That is also true. That is also there. I'm glad you brought that up. You know, Krishna consciousness is very accommodating, and you know, like for whatever level we are at, whatever stage we're at, then, you know, we are being accommodated. So yes, very, very nice point too. But yeah, I mean, I think both of these points, they can harmonize nicely, you know, because it's helpful to also have clarity on, you know, I know I'm not like at that level of Sarvadharman Prityaja, like fully giving up everything. I realize I'm not there, you know, I'm here, but I'm okay with that. I know that's just where I am right now, and I'm offering that to Krishna, you know. So yeah, okay, very nice addition. Rajwala, do you feel satisfied with this respond?
Yes, thank you very much for your answers. It was very helpful. Yeah, actually, it addressed what I was trying to clarify, because I was just like thinking about it, that whatever like we are doing every day and every month, every year, it directly affects how much time we have left for devotional practice and how much time we have left to spend with devotees and for some seva. That's why like I wanted to ask for some advice on how to approach in the proper way this choice, because wherever we are doing, whatever we choose to do every day, and in the long term, like next 5 years, next year, it will directly affect, well, first, how much time we have left for devotional practice, and what we can do, like in terms of the quantity of seva we can like take upon us, because we have only 24 hours a day and we cannot like do more than 24 hours a day. Unfortunately. Yes, thank you very much. It was very your answers. Thank you very much, Vishakha, Dasi, and Chinmoy, Prabhu, for your answers and additions to answers. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, all of your
Dandavat.
all of your considerations there are very good practical things. Those are good things to consider. You know, like how much time is this going to take away from your spiritual life? Where is it going to take you in 5 years? I think these are all good things to think about. And then another thing that came to mind while you were speaking is to remember that Krishna consciousness is primarily an internal cultivation. So, you know, even if, you know, you have to spend time with work, etc., you know, internally you can be trying to connect, you know, with our gurus, with the Lord, you know, remembering their glories, their teachings, as much as possible. You know, the example that Mahaprabhu gave, which our Gurudev appreciated very much, is a woman who has a secret lover, and superficially she's, you know, very carefully attending to all of her duties, like within her family. You know, she has her husband, she has her household duties, and she's very carefully fulfilling all those duties. But within her heart, she's thinking about her secret amour. She's relishing that within her heart, you know. So Mahaprabhu gave this example, you know, to indicate that we may have duties in the world which we are not very happy about, you know, but we do it in a mechanical way on one level, and internally our real heart is with Krishna consciousness. So that's another thing to consider. And actually being in this kind of what's the word I'm looking for, like disjointed situation, it can actually enhance our inner Krishna consciousness, because there's this contrast, you know, this an external environment which doesn't feel very favorable, it feels unfavorable, and what we really want to be doing within our hearts. And so being separated, like externally being separated from what our real desire is, that actually increases the hunger for it within our heart. So that's another interesting thing, you know, because our nature is that we tend to take things for granted, you know. So, you know, I mean, at least I can say for myself, you know, that's something I struggle with, you know. It's like you have the privilege of being able to give every day to your spiritual practice, and then you start to take it for granted and you don't really appreciate the value of what it is. Like I remember when I first went to, you know, before I went to live in India, and I was, you know, going to school and I had a part-time job. I was in this state of extreme desperation. Like I was suffering so much, you know, like feeling so much need to give myself exclusively in Krishna consciousness. And then I remember when I first went to live in India, I became spoiled very quickly. because when I was in England, it was like, I'm here and Gurudev's over there. And when I was there in India, I was like, I'm here, Gurudev's here, I've got everything. And I lost that inner mood of striving. I lost that hunger because I felt like, oh, Gurudev's right here in front of me. I'm here in the center, like everything's right. Like I can relax now, and it took a while for me to recover that, that actually, I don't think I don't feel like that in that initial like enthusiasm I had. I don't feel like I've ever recovered it, actually. I'm still working on it, So yeah, that's another point, that being separated from our real object of life can actually enhance our desire and our hunger for it. That's another consideration. Okay, well, if it's okay with you, Chinmoy Prabhu, I would like to address another question. We are running a little late. If anyone needs to leave, then please feel free to leave. So yes, Suyash Prabhu had a question as well, which was very nice question too. Prabhu, do you want to share that here?
Okay, thank you very much, Vishakha Didi. So my question was actually like, sometimes when we feed the baby understands and starts crying for little things, and then we gotta stay engaged with the baby, and then we stay 24/7 with the baby. And I want to know, like, how do we know that the baby's crying fakely right now and it's not a genuine cry for food, and if in case we are getting entangled into the attachment with that baby, how to get back from that, like we have to deal with the material life, but sometimes we do not know what is the limit, and we tend to get association with our friends and colleagues and families and so on, and then we start developing their habits and we start enjoying the material world. And how to know, like, what is the limit, and if in case we already crossed the limit, how to get back,
Can you say that last phrase again?
I was saying that when we associate with our friends, colleagues, etc., we tend to like develop their habits. It's natural in us, we adapt to the environment and we develop their habits, and we start enjoying the material world instead of just fulfilling our duties. We end up like enjoying the material world with them. And then how do we know, like, till what is the limit we should associate with them or get involved into things with them? And if in case we didn't get to know, we didn't realize that, oh, we are developing their habit, we are starting to enjoy the material world, how to come back from that?
Okay, that was the part where you said when you cross the limit, then coming back. That was the part I wanted to hear you say again. There's this very nice story. I believe it might have been told originally by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, but I heard from Srila Charjamar several times. The story, it's called Gita Samsar, which is like a play on words, because the word samsar, it means family. I mean, generally, like the word samsara, it's used to mean the material world, or like the entanglement, the cycle of birth and death in the material world. But colloquially speaking, in Bengal, it's also used just to mean family life, like your family. So there's this dual meaning there. Like, family life is synonymous with material entanglements. And so there's this story which is called Gita Samsar. I don't think you can really translate it into English, Gita referring to Bhagavad Gita. And then it's a story about when Brahmachari was living in a temple, and and he's trying to study Bhagavad Gita, but he finds in the temple that like everyone's so noisy, you know, there's so much activity going on. He's like, I can't concentrate, I'm trying to study Bhagavad Gita. And so he decides to leave the temple so he can just totally focus on Bhagavad Gita. So he goes to live in some like forest area. And then there are these mice who come and they're nibbling at the pages of his Bhagavad Gita. So then he gets a cat to chase away the mice. And then the cat, of course, is hungry. Cats like milk, so he gets a cow. So he gets a cow to be able to supply milk for the cat. And then he needs somebody to take care of the cow. So then he decides to get married. So then his wife takes care of the cow. And then he has many children with his wife. And then he has to spend all his time like, taking care of his children. So I think it's a very nice example of, I mean, this is a little separate from your point, but just in line with this idea how we can like start to become a little distracted, and we go further and further down that line, and before you know, like you're way off from where you started. But anyway, to go more specifically to your question, yeah, very nice. I'm really happy you brought this question up, and I'm really happy too that, you know, like this question, and also Brajabala's, I think like there's some nuance here, you know, which we're discussing. You know, it's nice to be able to answer questions which are kind of more specific and entering into nuances within our practice in a practical way. So yeah, many points here. And what I think really it comes down to is what we are ready for, and also having clarity on that, because in Krishna consciousness nothing is forced. So the question really is, you know, like what are we ready for in Krishna consciousness? Are we ready for like making it the absolute center of our life? Like, are we ready to make it the number one priority in everything that we do? You know, where in our, you know, in the work that we choose, in the friends, associates that we have, in every function that we have to attend to, like in every point of our life, we are squaring it up with Krishna consciousness. Like, are we ready for that? That's the first question. Are we ready for the teachings of Krishna consciousness to be the first consideration in every decision that we have to make in life? You know, that's the first question. Because not everyone's ready for that, and that's okay also. You know, there's room. We were just discussing this, you know, Chinmoy Prabhu made that point, you know, there's room for everyone. Everyone is to be accommodated, you know. So maybe somebody, you know, they like to go out to the cinema with their friends and, you know, watch movies and whatever it may be, you know, or they want to do a job that they really enjoy. They have some attachment to some particular lifestyle, you know, and that's okay, you know. You know, maybe somebody's not ready to give up all of their friends, you know, in the material plane, and that's, you know, that's okay. You know, there's room for that. You know, we need to make gradual progress, and jumping immediately to a higher level of practice isn't, sometimes it's okay, but it can have an adverse effect if somebody's not really ready for that, you know. So nothing, my main point is, you know, nothing is to be forced in Krishna consciousness. So we first have to have clarity on what we're really ready for in our spiritual practice. Maybe we're not ready to give up certain habits or certain certain circles, you know, that we're a part of, certain different interests that we're attached to, you know, we may not be ready for that, you know. So that's the first thing we should have clarity on. And but having clarity, I feel like having clarity is the most important thing. You know, one thing Shuddha Shava Prabhu used to say, which I really appreciated, was, you know, we don't want to pollute the ideal. You know, like if we can't live up to the highest ideal, that's fine, actually. Like, it's not such a big deal. Like, we are on an eternal journey. You know, how many hundreds, thousands of lifetimes will we most likely have to pass through before reaching the goal? So it's okay if we're not squaring up to things, but we shouldn't pretend that we are at a level that we're not, and we shouldn't try and turn everything that we're into a divine experience. You know, is that's something unfortunate that we see sometimes. Like, someone's involved in some material activity and they're trying to pretend it's a divine experience, or they're doing something, you know, utterly divine. Or another unfortunate thing you see is that some practitioners, they can become envious of other practitioners who are trying to take their spiritual life more seriously, and then they try to like cut them down. You know, like, oh, like, who do you think you are? You think you're better than us? Like, that's something that practitioners can unfortunately come up against sometimes, you know. So, you know, we don't want to be like that, you know. We want to like try and have some degree of clarity about where we are and where we're trying to go, and how much we're able to give to that right now, how at our current level of realization. That's like the pre, like, before we get to what you're saying, like, this is like a pre-consideration before that. And then like if somebody is coming from a place like I think you're coming from, where you really want to make this the center of your life, you know, then I think like some of the things we just said before, they're also relevant, you know, like try to identify, you know, like we have these two duties on the material side, on the spiritual side. Try to understand what's actually necessary to attend to on the material side, you know, like for example, you know, with your work, maybe there's some functions that you have to attend, you know, in order to remain in good standing with your employers, you know, or maybe you have certain family obligations, you know, like you know, attend to that in a spirit of duty, and only attend to as many of these things as is strictly necessary, you know, not more and not less, and to cultivate that inner detachment from those things. Like I'll tell you one funny story. And it's also very classic Gurudev, I feel, where because Gurudev put more emphasis on the inner conscience rather than like our external behavior or conduct. Gurudev put more emphasis on the inner mood that was behind what we did, you know. So like for example, Janardhan Maharaj, he told me this story, how you know, generally sannyasi, like traditionally in India, sannyasis won't go to visit their, sannyasis referring to the monks, like renunciates, they won't go to visit their family. And and even like they shouldn't go to visit their birthplace, the place where they were born, because there's too much attachment that can be brought up by that. Like there's some dispensation, like you can go back once, you know. So like we hear how Mahaprabhu, after he took sannyas, he went back to his birthplace like once after 5 years, you know, and he actually avoided the area, like specifically where he was born, and he wouldn't meet with his previous wife. You know, this is like the custom for sannyasis. So then on one occasion, Janardhan Maharaj, he was going to visit his mother, and you know, to for her satisfaction, you know, to keep her happy. And then another sannyasi criticized him and said, "Oh, you're a sannyasi, you know, what are you doing going to visit your mother? You know, you shouldn't go to visit your mother." And so then Janardhan Maharaj went to our Gurudev and asked him, like, is this okay? And our Gurudev said, "I know that you are not attached to your mother, so it's okay." You know, like Gurudev seeing, like, I know you're not going there in this mood, like, oh, you're my mom and I'm your son, and you know, like this very like, you know, bound up, emotionally involved type of mood, you know, like he's not going in that mood. He's going there with the sense of duty, you know. My mother's in her last days, you know, we'll give her some peace if I'll come to visit her. Like he's going in that spirit. So, you know, like, you know, we may attend to different duties according to necessity, but to cultivate some mood of detachment. and then otherwise, you know, like, you know, more intimate exchanges, we'll try to reserve that for like-minded souls, you know, for other devotees who are as serious as we're trying to be, you know. And I was your question reminded me of is it the 5th verse? Maybe it's the 5th verse of Upadeshamrita, where Rupa Goswami describes the 6 loving exchanges. Dadati pratigranati huyamagyati prichati bhuntaya bhunkte bojayate chaiva sadvidam priti lakshanam. You know, to give gifts, to receive gifts, to give food, to receive food, to open our hearts, to reveal our inner feelings to others, and then to hear that, to receive that from others. You know, these are described as like 6 intimate, loving exchanges, and these are ways in which we can relate with anyone in this world. But because, you know, they are like more intimate exchanges, then there's this exchange of energy. There's a transaction of energy that takes place between these kinds of, you know, with whoever we're exchanging with in this way, because it's intimate, there's an exchange of energy there. And so therefore, you know, we want to try to keep these kinds of exchanges with persons who are in a, you know, who are cultivating the same ideal of life as us, you know. Otherwise we will take energy from someone who we, you know, like even in a very like general worldly sense, right? There's like traditionally speaking, like there's this idea, like, you know, I mean, it's kind of, I think, considered old-fashioned now, but like you hear these expressions like, I won't break bread at his table, you know. It's like exchanging food. It's like something intimate that you'll do with your friends, the people who you are close to, you know? I'm not saying like, oh, don't ever eat with, you know, somebody who's a meat eater, or don't ever eat with somebody who's not a devotee, you know. Obviously we have to be practical. That's not always possible, but I'm just trying to convey this idea, you know, that more intimate exchanges we want to reserve for persons who we want to be more intimate with, you know, who are striving for our spiritual ideal in a similar way, you know. And then, you know, that example I mentioned before, I think is also applicable here, you know, that, you know, some of these duties we have in the world, we may have to carry out in a mechanical type of way, just fulfilling our obligations. And internally, our heart is somewhere else. So, we have to keep our priorities straight. Keep our priorities straight. I like very much one comment of Jagadananda Pandit that's recorded in Prema Vivarta, where he describes avoiding bad association as a kind of art. like you have to, meaning like you have to be, you may have to be a little tricky sometimes, like to get out of situations that you don't want to be involved in, like somebody's like telling you something you really don't want to hear, and like, oh, I'm so sorry, I just remembered something that I can't do. Or one of my sisters and her husband, they've made this deal with one another that if they see the other ones in an awkward situation, like they're stuck in a conversation, like they'll come up and like with some excuse, like, oh, I really need you over here, you gotta go, the kids are driving me crazy, like they've got this deal. Or like, or they might come up and whisper, like, do you need help, are you okay here? So I was so happy when I saw this. Like, okay, so it's okay to tell white lies sometimes, we can be a little tricky sometimes, like to get out of these like sticky situations. Like, I'm sorry, my cat died. I feel a cold coming on. Or, I've got so much work to do, like you wouldn't believe, like, so sometimes we can make these kind of excuses. We call it being vortexed by someone. Chintamani saying, yeah, very, very good. That's it, exactly. You get sucked into somebody's world, into somebody's vortex, What else? Or like what the example Chinmoy Prabhu gave of Gurudev, pretending to fall asleep. Like someone's telling some crazy stuff, and he's pretending to fall asleep. We don't know, like sometimes we may have this idea, like we have to be all like very nobly and be very straightforward all the time, like, I'm sorry, but I just don't think you're good for my spiritual life right now, like, and then we'll just break that person's heart and totally put them off as well, like any type of spiritual practice, like being gentle, we can be gentle, and mercy above justice, we can be a little tricky, a little sly in how we deal with these things, always being very straightforward. It's not necessarily the best approach in every situation. So yeah, is that helpful, Suyash Prabhu?
Yes, Didi. It's really a good satisfactory answer. Yeah. I got to understand like how we should, and like how do we get back if we find ourselves like gone? How to get back? That part I wanted to know that.
Gurudev, he told this story once about this man. He was living like his worldly life in a very ordinary way, and then one day he was in a marketplace in the evening time, and so so the sun was starting to set, and shopkeepers there, and no doubt this is when this is like there's not like so many like lamp posts everywhere like we have nowadays, you know, so the lights dimming, the sun setting, the shopkeepers are starting to close up, and so then like some shopkeepers, they started calling out like, oh, the sun setting, or there's not much time left, you know, like hurry up, not much time left, we've got to go. And then this man there, he was hearing this, and he suddenly had this massive wake up call. I'm wasting my time, like time's running out. You know, he had this major epiphany. And he left his whole world behind. He went to live in Vrindavan, and he devoted the rest of his life for his spiritual practice. You know? There's also the wonderful example of Bilva Mangal Thakur and the prostitute Chintamani. You know, that he developed this very strong, you know that story, everybody knows, this very strong attachment to a prostitute. Okay, Varun, thanks for joining us. Have a great day in Salt Lake City.
Thank you.
So he developed this attachment to this prostitute, and was going to see her, I don't know if it was like every night or very regularly. And then there was one night he went to see her, and there was a massive storm. And I've heard different variations about all the obstacles he had to cross. You know, like I've heard one, he had to like swim across a river with crocodiles, and he had to climb over this high wall because it was like storming hard, and she was all locked up. She wasn't expecting any business that night, and so like everything was closed and dark and locked, and pouring down with rain. And then so he passed through all these obstacles, and he finally makes it to her door, and he's knocking on her door, and Chintamani, she opens the door, and she's astonished, like, even on this type of night you're still coming. And she said to him, you know, if you could give like even a fraction of this type of enthusiasm to your spiritual life, you would become such a great devotee of God. You know? So again, like this one comment in this particular circumstance, it acted like this major wake-up call for him. And he ended up, you know, again, leaving that behind and going to serve Krishna exclusively in Vrindavan. So actually, it requires one instance of revelation. You know, it's also actually, you reminded me also very nice comment in Srimad Bhagavatam, where, you know, Parikshit Maharaj, he's been told he had 7 days left to live. And then at one point, Shukadev Goswami is saying, you know, so many ages of time are not necessary. You say you only have 7 days left, that's more than enough time. You know, so many, you know, the trees are living for so many hundreds of years. What's the use of that? You know? So much time is not necessary, but one moment of full consciousness, that is all. You know, one moment, one snap of the finger, one knock on the head, you know, that may be all that's necessary. You know, if we feel that, if we feel that necessity, then we'll know what to do. You know, it'll be something natural and automatic. You know, we'll have clarity. If we really feel that need, we have that hunger. It doesn't matter how far along you've gone. No, you can find some way to extricate yourself. You know, it's true that, you know, in some situations it may have to be a gradual process. You know, like, you know, for example, certain addictions, you know, and with intoxicants, you cannot immediately withdraw. You could even put your life in danger if you do that. So it's true, there may be certain things where you have to gradually extirpate yourself, but then you gradually extirpate yourself, you know, make an action plan. You know, we can all make an action plan. You know, how am I going to make my life more Krishna centered? You know, that's the question. You know, and then work out what are the steps. You know, we can work out in a systematic way, like what are the different steps we can take in a practical way in our life day by day to move towards that, you know. And you know, if nothing else, you know, maybe we've just really entangled ourselves with so many obligations in the world. If nothing else, like internally, we can offer our heart to Krishna. You know, internally, we can always do that. So, but I don't think it's, you know, I think that's not so common that somebody is so deeply entangled that they're unable to make Krishna consciousness the center of their life. You know? So, but yeah, we can always fall back on that in whatever sticky or complicated situation when we can always fall back on that, you know, that it's an internal cultivation. It's an internal cultivation. I'm going to stop there because I think we're going on a bit late here. But is that okay, Prabhu?
Yes, yes. It's amazing.
Okay. Does anyone else want to add anything? I don't know. We had some more. I think I might have lost the chance to say hello to some devotees. I see Seamus and Vijay are tuning in, and I think there were a few others who they've left. Oh, they're also Dandavad, Seamus, Vijay. You're in the car as well. We have two mobile members here.
Hi, Hare Krishna.
Dandavad. Does anyone else want to add anything there, or should we close?
I would just like to add, I'm very grateful that you were here with us today, Vishakha.
I'm very grateful too, Prabhu. You're enabling this meeting to take place and giving me some service engagement.
I'm just pushing buttons.
What did you say?
I'm just pushing buttons.
Please, much more than that. Okay, well, maybe we'll stop there then. I dandavat pranams to all of you. Oh, so next Monday I'll actually be in Ireland. I'm traveling on Sunday. I mean, you know, God willing, who knows what's going to happen, especially in these crazy times. But if all goes according to plan, I'll be in Ireland next Monday, and so we'll be meeting there. Okay, well, my dandavats to all of you. All glory to our beautiful divine guardians, and look forward to meeting you all again very soon.
Jai Vishakha Devi Dasi ki.
Jai Gurudev. Jai Gurudev.